The way people say, beautiful from far, but far from beautiful, you know?
Welcome to Old Spirit Garage, brought to you by JaPs. Today, a story about how sometimes the wildest dreams can come true. Think about what is the highest achievement an enthusiast could reach. Often in the community, it's talked about owning a classic Porsche. And this isn't limited to car enthusiasts only. I hear non-enthusiasts dreaming about the same things.
The 911 I've always associated to success. I know it might sound materialistic, but it's not in that sense. I believe that once a person is mature enough to get himself a 911, that's a time where you can say, yeah, I've reached a point in my life when I can say, yeah, I made it. The 911 journey has been interesting because it's one of the only cars, apart from the G-Wagon and probably there's several that we can probably count on one hand, that stuck with the same name and with the same type of design for, over 50 years now. And the 911 is special because of one thing, especially the older ones. It's because of the raw, unassisted and direct driving feel that you get from them. It's a feeling that you can't really get from other cars because these are engineered so perfectly that they cannot be compared to other classics of these sorts. And that's why I believe these are cars that are going to stay around for a long time to come and are something that is just not going to be forgotten.
Please welcome our special guest, LD Kaiser. He's here to tell his part of the story about classic Porsche ownership, the restoration project, and all the emotions behind it.
The specialness of old cars, I think it comes purely from emotion and feeling of driving. It's also about beauty. I mean, the way the lines work, the way the design was back then, it was so much more simplistic and maybe a little bit more utilitarian as well. But apart from the beauty, when you drive an old car, there's just so much more feeling that you have in the steering, in the throttle, in the brakes, in the clutch, when you're shifting gears, when you're going through corners, you hear everything, you smell everything, you feel everything. It is just a different experience. And for this particular example, the car that's behind me, it is a throttle by wire. The steering is directly connected to the wheels like a go-kart. It's a naturally aspirated engine, no traction control, no ABS, not even airbags. So here, when you press the gas, you really you feel the moment you press the gas, that's when the car begins doing things. I've always wanted to have a restoration project, like I think essentially every car guy wants to at some point have. I was 19 years old. And I was studying for university in my room, and I decided to go downstairs to the kitchen to get myself a drink. And my dad was sitting in the living room, and as I passed him, he asked me, "Hey son, do you want a Porsche 911?" And this is not something that happens in our household just like that. So I thought he was joking. And I said, yeah, get me two of them, And I went to the kitchen, I made myself a drink, and as I came back, I passed him again. And he said, no, I was serious. I'm thinking that you and I get this unrestored, completely original, but kind of in a bad condition, Porsche 911, and we restore it, we bring it back to life, and we make something that's truly great. And obviously I said, yeah, that sounds fantastic. And so the search for a car began for about 3 or 4 months. We've been searching on all kinds of websites, talking to all kinds of people, trying to find a nice Porsche 911. And I really wanted it to be either the 2.7 S, the 3.0 SC, or the 3.2 Carrera. And I really wanted the Targa, because I felt like the Targas were just the nicest things. And so we got in touch with one guy here in Slovenia who imports old cars from America as a hobby. And so we told him what kind of car we're looking for, what we want. He said he'll see what he can do. And that was the end of that. We went back to searching on all kinds of websites. About a month and a half passed. And I get a call from this guy. And he says that his friend from America, specifically from California, has just acquired a whole warehouse collection of vintage cars, not just Porsches, but Mercedes, Jaguars, all kinds, Ferraris, whatever. And so he had one 3.0 SC Targa, had a interior that was in relatively nice condition, was numbers matching, never crashed. I went back and forth with this guy, talking about pricing, talking about what equipment the car has, how much it would cost to get it from America to Slovenia, and all of these things. And so we reached a point where the decision was, do we buy it or do we not buy it? And I was on the call with him. We were talking, and I could not make a decision because it was so much pressure to get the right car. It was the first time that I was doing something like this. There was so much pressure. And so, to him, I was like, yeah, I don't know if this is the right thing. I don't know if that's what I want. And he said, look, this is the kind of thing where you either do it or you don't do it. Because if you keep on, yeah, should I, shouldn't I, you're never going to do it. And I completely agree with that now. And at the time, I said, you know what, you're right, let's do it. Let's buy the car. He said, done. And so that's how I bought this car. And I bought it in November of 2019. And it arrived to Slovenia in January 2020. And so when it arrived, it was, the way people say, beautiful from far, but far from beautiful, It looked good from far, but when you came up close to it, you could see all of the imperfections and all the work that would need to be done. The engine, while it was in one piece and it was numbers matching, was not working. And so the search for mechanics and the search for people who can restore the car began. And it took us about, I would say, 5 months before we found the right mechanic. Some guy here in Slovenia, he has a company that works specifically with restoring vintage cars. And so we gave him the car, and it took about a year to get the exterior, the interior, and the undercarriage, the wheels, the brakes, the suspension, the lights, everything working. And so then was the job of getting the engine, the transmission, and the differential to work. Essentially, the most important part of a car, the heart. And so we found this other mechanic, who I will not name, here in Slovenia, who promised a good price, promised all of these things that he was going to do, full restoration of the engine, everything. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I have all of this working experience. And, we decided to go with him. And long story short, we lost a year of time with that mechanic. The entire time he was always saying, yeah, it's going to be done in about a month. This should be done in about a week. Yes, I'll send you the photos. Nothing was ever done. Nothing ever came. I lost my nerve. I took the car from him, and through some of my father's contacts, we found this mechanic in München that also used to work as a mechanic for Porsche back in the time when these cars were new. Now he's a retired gentleman. He's got his own little home workshop, and he just does these projects completely as hobbies, more for his friends than for business. But through my father's contacts, we managed to get in touch with him. We sent him the car, and it took another year for him to rebuild the engine completely, the transmission and the differential. The car came back to Slovenia, and here we are. This is the car. It's beautiful. It drives well. The engine is very well restored, and I'm extremely happy with the car. The driving experience is absolutely unmatched. It is wonderful, and I'm very glad to be one of the privileged people who will get to experience something like this in their life.
Getting into such a project has many different angles of attack. You heard today's story, and I hope it's going to help you in your current or next project. Thank you for coming this far in the video. I would love to hear your thoughts about this form of content down in the comments below.